guys, welcome to the one more episode of the Funky Marketing Podcast. Today we keep going and keep talking about go-to-market strategies, consulting, and what can B2B companies, especially B2B tech companies, do to actually get to the customers, to the market the right way. What are some steps that need to take to kind of get there, not lost in the process? And today we're try to make it easier for all of you listeners how you can do it, right? I have a guest, which is somebody that, I've been connected with him on LinkedIn and I've been following what he's been doing. His name is Christopher Hann. He's head of marketing at Paal15. It's a consulting and go-to-market agency working exclusively in B2B tech. Somebody who has been in marketing in B2B for over 10 years and has sort of a framework that he implements working with companies, something that he has, tried and adopted, adjusted. And he'll tell you also that, as you set up the things, it's not it's not the time when you end the process. Process goes, you need to optimize as you go, as you get the feedback. But before we get into all that, let's join me in welcoming Chris to the Funky Marketing Podcast.
Hi, thank you for the introduction.
Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Yeah, good. It's good. It's Thursday, so getting close to the weekend.
I didn't actually think about it. That's actually a good thing.
yeah, it's been a good week, so it's always good when that happens.
Nice. I love hearing that. So, what is on my mind and what we can do to make it actually closer what you are doing and what the company is doing? Maybe you can explain a little bit who are you working with, and basically what the company does and what is your role inside it.
Yeah, so Paal15 is a global B2B tech consultancy and go-to-market agency. So we work across a variety of different verticals. We work with ISVs, SaaS businesses, scale-ups, distributors, OEMs, hyperscalers, sort of the whole gambit of tech. Some of the companies we work with are such as Red Hat, AWS, Microsoft, Matillion, Domo, Lab3. Across quite broad spectrum. Myself, I am the head of marketing. I work on sort of the internal marketing for Paal15. So pretty much my job to get their name out there and help people understand what we do and hopefully realize that what we offer is something that they might need in their journey of getting more growth.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna talk about today. How do you do it?
Yeah,
actually, and how does it go? So there is, before we get into those 4 steps that you usually do, there is one thing that you usually do. I mean, we all do it before you get into those things, and it is getting to know for whom you are creating the strategy, right?
Yeah. I mean, the first stage is understanding the business, understanding the people that you are working with or working for, depending on whether you're in-house or client side. And that usually runs from the top down, I find, and across all departments. I mean, it very much depends on what you're working on, but usually it's good to understand how the CEO or the CMO or top level person sees the business, sees what they sell, and how they understand things, and then sort of go through the business, sales, customer success, business development, and see how much that marries up. Something that at Paal15 we come across a lot is you speak to one person and they have one story about what the business does, what it sells, why it's doing it. You speak to another person, they have a different story. You speak to a third person, they have a different story. And the stories are usually influenced by where they sit within the business, how close they interact with customers or the end user, And so, yeah, you've got to gather all of that, and then you've got to pair that with the sort of the next sort of sub stage that is understanding the market that they operate in. You take all that information that they provided you, and then you look at who are they reaching out to, who do they want to reach out to, who are they actually ending up getting, and understanding whether that is marrying up as well. It's quite interesting. Sometimes you find that who the CEO wants to get in front of is not the same sort of person who the salesperson people want to get in front of. And then you look into the sort of data, and you see that actually the sort of people that they are getting in front of isn't even close to those two things. And then it's sort of looking at the market and actually understanding which of any of the three, or if there's a fourth sort of ideal customer persona, an ICP, that actually is the one they should be targeting. So yeah, it's all about understanding the business, understanding the market.
Yeah, it's usually never one person, like you need to talk to be able to sell, let's say, I don't know, who are you selling to? For example, it can be, somebody who is, I don't know, a CMO in a company, or it can be a CTO, or on the other hand, you have people who are, not decision makers, who are influencing the decision maker. You need to understand that whole process, how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, you find there are gatekeepers within any business. I mean, in the old days, sort of the assistant to the CEO was the gatekeeper. You had to get past them first before you had to speak to it. I mean, in this digital age, you can get in front of the decision makers, but generally your message resonates better if it's coming from someone lower down in the business who pushes it up through the business. And that's how we found that. That's how success can be generated on a greater scale. Obviously, within a business, you have one CEO, you have one CMO, but then you might have multiple marketing managers or multiple people in different marketing roles that you can reach out, and start expanding your pool of who you can reach. It gives you more chance of actually getting in front of someone that your message resonates with.
Yeah, and I mean, tell us a little bit, about the steps that you usually do inside your framework, right? You start with understanding the market. What are the steps? Let's try to get into each of them and, kind of elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, the next step is what makes the business special. So following on from the first step, where you gather all that data on the market, on how everyone sees the business, is actually distilling that down into what is the differentiator of that business. Why do they think they should stand out from the competitors, and does that actually come across in what they're doing? You've got to find that unique selling point. Funnily enough, when you speak to a lot of businesses, businesses within the same verticals will often give the same unique selling points, which kind of means that it's not a unique selling point, it's just a selling point.
Exactly. That's some nuances that we are seeing all around the industries, right? Especially if you go and look at the SaaS companies, like all of them have even the same design on a website, not even a different offers.
Yeah, it very much comes to a point where a lot of businesses, something happens in the market, in marketing, or the way businesses push themselves out, and then everyone leaps onto it, and then everyone starts looking the same. And that's sort of what Paal15 does. It comes in, it looks at these businesses and goes, okay, what's your true differentiator? What's the thing we should actually be focusing on that makes you stand out from your competitors? And that's sort of it within that stage. That's again a lot of looking into the business, into the market, and it sort of goes into the next stage, which is telling a story. Everyone loves a good story. They need something they can relate to, and the story also needs to be able to change depending on who you're pushing it out to. I mean, businesses they are marketing, they are pushing out to bring customers in, but they also have various other stakeholders. If they're a publicly traded company, they have shareholders. Then you've got internal communications as well to get everyone on board internally. Again, going back to that first point of people having different views of the business, different understandings of what they're pushing out, what the focuses are. You've got to if you get everyone aligned internally, it makes the external messaging work a lot better. And then we work.
I mean, let's hold on that for a second, because if you talk about the small companies, like let's say even up to 20 people, it's easy to kind of align everyone on the story, right, on the narrative. But if we are talking like a bigger companies that you guys are working with, like it's totally, when you have the board, when you have different departments, you have marketing and sales usually in silos, it's totally different thing and much harder to actually align them on the story.
Yeah, I mean, all you can do is give them the tools. With the larger organizations, all you can do is give them the tools and the education to do it. There's only so much handholding you can do, but most of the time we find that when you show organizations the benefits of doing that, they're very happy to ensure that everyone starts singing from the same hymn sheet. But even just going back to what you said about the small companies, actually be surprised how often even small companies, because they're so fast, everyone's wearing many different hats, actually they can have that issue just as much as larger companies. Well, larger companies generally more siloed. Smaller companies, people are flitting about all the time. Their proposition, their value and messaging can change a lot with the winds of the market as they chase that growth scale. And we've seen examples of that before where organizations have grown, and then as they grow, their messaging gets diluted and everything gets lost. And sort of we then step back in and take them back to that start point. And that's because they didn't prepare themselves properly for that growth. I think if you get that foundation, that value proposition, messaging, everything foundation in at the start, get that fully across the business and keep reiterating as the business grows, you'll find that sustaining growth and keeping unique identity is a lot easier in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something that messaging, even the positioning, the narrative, it's not something that you set up now and you don't go back to it ever. You use it as it is, right? It's something that you iterate and you adjust, you edit it depending on how you grow, how you move, and depending on how the market behaves as well.
Yeah, it's usually you find businesses go one or two ways with it. Is that they either go all in on it and fully focus on it and don't change it, and that in itself can be a problem, because then they start getting they start getting larger. There's more they scale up, but the message and everything they're giving out doesn't match the size. They're still using small business messaging in a way. And then other times you have the opposite, where they chop and change and they chop and change, and then suddenly they're huge, or they've defaulted into the standard industry messaging that all the competitors, the people they were chasing, were using, and they'll find challengers snapping at their heels who are the ones with fresher messaging. So yeah, I mean, I think no matter a business's size, no matter where they are in their journey, it's something you said that should be regularly reviewed, but we find that with an external viewpoint, because if you're inside the box, generally you can't think what's about outside of it, and you kind of do. That's how you do end up down the wrong way. A lot of businesses we find when they start scaling become very product focused. They're very talk about themselves rather than looking at it from a customer centric, solution focused way of doing things. They start thinking about it's more about talking about the product rather than what the product can do for the customer. And they lose sight of that as they scale and grow. It's all about the new shiny. For SaaS business, it can be about the new shiny things they do. For hardware businesses, it can be about how fast their new product is. But if they don't relate that back to the benefits it can generate for a customer, you just sort of again start sounding like everyone else.
Yeah, I totally agree, and this is something that I'm seeing all the time. Like, nothing gets ships outside of the company to actually get the feedback on your messaging, on the content from the customers, right? Because it's not what you and I think, what the CEO thinks, or what the content team thinks. It's what the customers think, if it's the right fit or no. We can get the best possible way, and it can still be shit,
Yeah.
right? So it all depends. Like in the last episode I was recording with Trevor Longino, we also talk about how to test ideas early and test things out early. And one of the things which is kind of a good thing to do, use a small budget on Facebook, wherever it is, and just put the message on, without any creatives, just the color and the letters, so people can read it and test or which people are reacting to and what's converting. What's the conversion rate? If you have like more than 7% conversion rate, it usually means people are really interested in that, and that's the one that you should go with. And there are, some other ways, but one thing that I think it's interesting, and I would like to hear your view on it, is how close should the CEO or the founder be involved with creating the story? Should he be part of the process the whole time, or how do you do it?
Yeah, I think again, this comes back to the scale of a business. You'll find obviously the larger a business, the more people that are involved. The CEOs generally want to see the produced product. They want to see what's at the end. While if you're dealing with a founder-led business that is in that scale-up growth phase, they do generally want to be more involved. But also, they're usually the person who has the tech. We generally find that in the scale-up businesses, the founder is usually a tech person. They generally don't understand messaging, value proposition, stuff like that. So you need them in from the beginning to educate them on that. I feel sort of related to that. The best people to speak to in a business generally are the customer success and the sales team. You want to understand from customer success what's the stuff that people rave about, and from salespeople, you actually want to understand why deals are lost, or when they're speaking to people, when they're connecting to people, what's their understanding of the offering. Because this is a big thing. There can be sometimes, I've had this personally when researching solutions, is marketing, messaging, the value proposition, and everything. It says one thing, and then you get into the product and they don't marry up. There's been a disconnect at some point between what the actual product is and how they push that out to the wider world. And I think that's where you've got to do some bit of digging and actually do a bit of muckraking in a way. Is actually looking at the bad to understand how you pivot some companies away from the sort of over the top glorification of the product and that actually oversells or missells what it does. So yeah, it's a team effort. You need to get everyone involved. Everyone.
Exactly, and I mean, I usually say, like, how do you test the story? How do you test the narrative? Basically through the sales, right?
Yeah.
First, because they are the one that have direct relationship with the customers, and they can see if what you are talking about in the story actually has a foundation in reality, or is something just in your head. So that's always an thing to test, and it's so we said you start with understanding the market. You find out the differentiator, the USP, and what makes you special. You go and craft a story, because usually the story is the strategy. I like that saying from Andy Ruskin. Basically, he crafts the story inside the sales pitch, right? So that's something that really like. And the last thing is creative. right? How important is the creative in the whole spectrum of things today?
So I think the creative, I use the term creative as a broad catch-all. It's not just the imagery. It's the tagline. It's taking everything that's gone before and boiling it down into a phrase of some sort that really gets across what the business is doing, and then everything comes off of that. So the imagery, style, follow-up messaging, the sort of elevator pitch style, all sort of sits around this, and it's usually focused on that going back, focused on what can this company do for a customer. So it's a customer-centric messaging. So, for example, a client we worked with previously, they're an FX broker. They sort of were seen as just another FX broker, but actually what their solution was pretty groundbreaking at the time for who they service and how they did it. And so we did messaging about how money breaks down borders and crosses borders and stuff like that to really get the message across. And that resonated. I mean, they loved it. The market loved it. Within a couple of years of working with us, they were acquired by Banco Santander for sort of nearly 400 million. So not their majority stake acquired for about 400 million euros a few years after working from us. They had one of the largest investment funding rounds for a UK company. So the messaging just resonated really well across the whole industry. And just that one bit, and everything obviously came off of that. And so that's when I say creative. It's the fun bit in a way. All the stuff before is good. It's necessary. But this is the bit where you actually create stuff and push it out. But all the stuff before that goes before the sort of the consultants on the value proposition and everything like that. It is the real important bit, because you need to get that right to then be in the correct position to boil it down into the messaging and then build out the go-to-market strategy around that messaging and that narrative.
Yes. So tell me now, when we've done all of those things, what are the next steps? Usually, how does it go? Is it now, okay, we have this now and we can put it in the drawers and don't look at it anymore? Or what do we do with it?
No, I mean, I think you said before, you push out. You've got to push out to the market. Usually these projects are not small scale. They're not just generally on one campaign. We're sort of repositioning a business as a whole. So then comes all the work after that, the asset creation, website, again, all the branding side of things, and then it's pushing it out, seeing how the market reacts to it, seeing what results it drives, and collecting data on that, and hopefully seeing business growth, and then it's tweaking it. Usually the business we work for, especially when they're in sort of the scale up growth phase, of start growing, and they'll generally have new offerings coming out, new solutions, or they may want to work with partners. They might want to do joint proposition with a cloud hyperscaler, such as Microsoft, AWS, or generally it's just using the first bit as a launch point and then understanding what to do next and working on the next phases. Companies we worked with previously, we've helped them do a product launch, which has then led to repositioning the company. That's then led to activating their partner network. That's then led to helping them restructure their organization to fit a new customer-centric rather than product-centric focus. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's a continuing journey.
Yeah, it never stops. You're always on a look for the next thing, right?
Yeah,
for the next iteration.
Yeah, growth doesn't. You don't press the button, launch something, and then you grow. You do that, and you see hopefully positive shoots, and then you keep watering it in a variety of different ways. And there is a huge variant. There's a huge variety of things you can do after you've got the right messaging, the right value proposition. Then that's sort of what we do as well. Is look at the next phase and speak to clients about. I said what that next phase is, going back to the previous example of sort of it's partner activation, or it's how can you work with how can you work with distributors, or how can you work with the cloud hyperscalers, or how do you spin off into a new company? How do you get ready for an IPO? There's so many different things.
Yeah, that can happen, all depending on the company goals, right? On the stage where they are and what's happening. And I would say it's never the same. You may have the framework, but as you and I had a chat yesterday or the day before we record this, there's one thing that we always need to keep in mind, like nothing is set in stone. Like the framework, the things that you create, those are just the starting things that allows you to actually go to the market and test if what you are doing is actually the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, within marketing, I've always found everything is a guide. Everything is just a jumping off point. I always like to think of it is there's no right or wrong way of doing something in marketing generally. There's just a right or wrong way for your business or for a business you're working with. There's so many. I see posts from people on LinkedIn. They're like, "Don't do this." Like this, I tried this and it failed miserably. I'm sitting there going, "I run that in a business and close deals worth millions of pounds in AIR." So people saying that gated content doesn't work anymore, but it does if you do it correctly. People saying, running webinars and then following up on webinars won't close your business. It does, but it won't work for everyone. It's all situational, which is why you come back to you've got to test everything. As you said with the messaging, you test the message, see what works. With everything in marketing, is you test it to see what works for your business, what works for the people you're targeting. And I think if you have the right value proposition, you have the right messaging, and you have the right go-to-market framework, and you push it out in the correct way, and everyone's singing the same hymn sheet, and if you know how to position yourself correctly, then people will resonate with that. You can do these things that people are telling you not to do, and they will work for you. I feel that people who say, "Oh, this won't work," it's because something fundamentally went wrong beforehand.
Do you maybe have some examples that you can share? How do you understand that you have the right messaging and the right positioning? I think that might be interesting.
I think this comes back to speaking with speaking with sales, is understanding if sales are saying that the people they're speaking to were in the wrong stage, then you've got to think about what you did before when you passed it over. So someone's given you details, phone number, email address. You don't do that for no reason. There's got to be a bit of an interest, and then you've got to understand why. If a vast majority of people are doing that point, and then sales are following up, and they're not ready to buy, or they didn't understand what the product. Well, they kind of gave it to learn what the product was, something like that. Then you've got to look at, okay, maybe we haven't got the right messaging, we haven't got the right value proposition, because people aren't understanding what we can do for them. But yeah, it's not black and white. Nothing. Nothing marketing is. It's you've just got to keep digging to understand what works, what doesn't work.
I remember I had a sentence on the website. I think it's not there anymore, but it was like, it's not black or white. Marketing is actually very, very gray and often counterintuitive. So something that you don't even think it's going to work, it works, but you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's why knowing your customers and understanding from psychological aspects, how do they, what are their jobs to be done? What are the biases inside the companies that actually triggers them to do specific actions? Those are the things that that affects them a lot. I mean, I remember I had an episode, I think last year, with Rory Sutherland to talk about biases in the B2B. Like, he used some B2C examples, but he made them so perfectly clear, the examples, that I was like, damn, it's basically, people protecting their asses, excuse me for the language. And that affects how they're going to do specific action. For example, like I like to say, if a company is about to go and buy a tool to solve a specific problem, they don't have anybody on top of mind. The CTO, for example, is going to ask, I don't know, let's call Anna, the person, and tell her, Anna, can you find me, the top 3 products that can solve this problem? And she goes on Google. There are listings. There's all kind of stuff. She checks out and she comes back with a top 10, let's say, company products. So they choose one of those and they go and basically, after 3 months, they find out if it's not the right fit, right? And CTO asks, like, why did we buy actually this tool? It's not the right fit for us. It's for different types of companies. Who actually, whose idea was that? They say, Anna, why did we actually bought that product? And she said, you told me to find you the best 3, right? I gave you the best 3. Go on Google, check it out yourself. It's the best 3. She protects her ass, right?
Yeah.
Because of the decision, she did what he told her, right? And there are a lot of similar examples inside the companies that we don't know until we talk to the customers. We go in depth and we actually really understand, especially if those are like the bigger systems, when there are tons of million nuances that is affecting the way they actually buy.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing as well is a lot of people, if you're talking about a SaaS product, people will look for a solution, but a lot of times people may not realize they need, they may not really realize they have a problem until you point out the problem to them. This is what we know. It's when it's sort of for what we do as consultancy. If you went to
and exactly, so sorry, just to plug in something in. If you try to ask them to give you the answers, they will give you the answers based on what they know. And if they don't know that something exists or they don't understand that they have a problem, then actually, if you don't deliver the thing that pops up in their minds, they will be actually pissed at you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you speak to people, founders or people who are in charge of the marketing, and you go, do you need, if you went to them like, do you need a new value proposition and go to market strategy, they'd probably be like, no. But if you went to them, oh, have you got issue A, issue B, issue C? Are you struggling to get to market quickly? Are you struggling to resonate with customers? Are you finding that people don't fully understand what you do? And they're like, yeah, actually, that's what we hear from. So it's like, okay, you've got a value proposition and messaging problem. So the thing is, if you went directly to them and say, do you have X problem? Again, they understand what it is, but they wouldn't realize they've got the problem because they don't realize what the symptoms are. And so that, and I think a lot of businesses, and I think that's not just consultancy, I think a lot of businesses is when you look at the productivity stuff, it's generally like, how much time do you spend pulling data together into an Excel spreadsheet from 10 different systems? You speak to people and they'll be like, oh, I spend 10 hours a day doing it. Okay, that's 10 hours a week, sorry. And then you're like, our system can do it in 20 minutes for you. You don't just go, you don't just go, our product can pull the data in from all these different places. You focus on sort of, okay, how much time are you going to save doing this? What else can you be doing with that time? But there's also to higher up in the business, like, do you know how much time your employees are spending on certain tasks? I think this is a big thing where AI is coming in as well. AI is a huge thing. Everyone's talking about it. It's a huge thing. We're seeing in the market is how it's there to save people time. You know, how much time do people spend doing X, Y, and Z? Get the right prompt for an AI program, feed it with the right data, and you can save yourself a lot of time. Focus on the right things, and people are getting that messaging with AI. And there's a lot of other products out there that have been doing it for years, and I think kind of had trouble articulating that end result. They were again product focused. They were focused on, you know, our product collects all your data and then puts it into a nice dashboard for you, which is, you know, okay, that sounds cool, but again, you're not going back to that. Are you solving what the problem is? People don't understand that they have a problem. They're just so used to doing data collection in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually you reminded me now something. You know what I usually like to say. If you're a company, you know, that a founder or whoever it is, like CEO, they have a vision, you know, and if they see some things that others didn't see, right, in the market, they saw the you know, the opportunity to create a product, a service, whatever it is, to solve specific problems. Basically, you are actually pissed because, and you know, you're getting out of your head because nobody else sees it, right? And then what you need to figure out what do you need to do to make them actually see those things that you are also seeing. And you know, that's how I like to define the strategy, right? And that's why I think strategies are usually the people who say, you know, like, damn, I'm gonna make you see the exact things that you need to see. But you know, it's easy to say it like that. To actually get to that and actually show them the directions, like why do you need to take exactly these steps, that's actually really hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think, sort of going back to when you talk about smaller businesses where it's founder led and they're scale ups, I'd say the vast majority of these businesses are set up by people with extremely good technical ability. They can, you know, they can build these programs, they can understand how they work, but they generally don't understand how to push that out. They don't understand the value of a value proposition. They don't understand the value of good messaging. And that's where sort of a business like Paal15 will step in and help them. We find it all the time and again. You'll talk to the person, they'll be able to brilliantly tell you everything their product does, and how, you know, it's groundbreaking. But then they're product centric rather than customer centric. And even if they do think in a customer centric way, they generally, again, they're technical people, so they're not used to building a value proposition. They don't understand how to craft the messaging. And most people within marketing, if they were honest with themselves, sort of took a step back, probably wouldn't be able to create that sort of stuff. If you brought a CMO in, it's unlikely that they would, unless they come from like a long tech background, they come from an agency or somewhere that does it. The vast majority probably wouldn't be able to tackle that without external help. And again, so that's where Paal15 steps in, and provides that extra help, to sort of get them over the line to help with growth. Because then you can only get so far bootstrapping through. Once you have a proof of concept, you'll get sales, you'll, you know, get it through. But if you really want to push for the higher echelons, if you're looking at being acquired, or you're looking at floating an IPO, then you generally need to be a step above sort of 5, 10, 15, 20 people sat in a room. You need to be thinking bigger scale. And going back to what I said right at the beginning, when you're looking to scale up, you've got to get all of that stuff in place so that when you do start growing, it doesn't all get lost.
Exactly. And you know, there is a thing that I often see is that, you know, when do companies, especially B2B companies, start thinking about marketing, right? When something is wrong. Right? Usually that's the case. We're gonna get marketing, and they're gonna use their magic stick, and everything is gonna get back to the normal. But I did a lot of research work and talk with a lot of companies, and what I figure out is, they're most of the B2B companies are sales companies, and they know sales. So whenever there comes a problem, they look at what they know and they think is the sales problem. So they try to solve the sales problem. Also, what marketing in most of those companies does is do digital sales, right? Usually lead gen or those kind of things. But when they run into the problems, usually the solution is going back to the square one and solving the foundation, because they didn't involve marketing from the start, right? Marketing didn't work with the product team to actually create the story around the product, to actually do now I think it's buzzing on LinkedIn discovery calls before you build the product. Seems like people forgot that these things is the essential to do before you actually build the product, right? So usually how it goes, sales is there to start the growth, marketing is there to accelerate the growth, but it cannot accelerate it if it breaks, if you didn't involve it right from the start.
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses, they'll focus on getting your sales people in, your business development people in. They will have a couple of people within marketing, and they'll get the low hanging fruit, the people who were desperate for a solution like that. But that's a small percentage of the general market most businesses are going for. And then you've got to start educating. Because generally, if you've got, unless you're going into an existing market, you generally looking to either create something very unique within an existing market or create a new market within itself, which is something we've done before. We've gone into companies, they've been in a market, we've actually gone, you need to, if you do this and reposition your business, actually you can create a whole new market sector and then take leadership, take ownership, charge. But yeah, so they have the salespeople, have a few markets, and then they suddenly get to a point where no matter how many more salespeople they bring in and business development people, their growth trickles down, and it's generally because no matter what marketing can do, they haven't got the foundation in place. They haven't got that value proposition. They haven't got the strong value proposition that can last through time. They haven't got the messaging that can last a long time. They've got sort of the whatever quick and dirty thing, whatever they came up with at the beginning that's empowering them. They'll get to a certain point where that will run out of steam because it's generally done pretty quickly without much wider input. And again, going back to it, and it's generally the marketing. I see it a lot of times. The marketing is very product centric. They talk about the product rather than being customer centric. And being customer centric is how you sustain growth.
Love that. Love that. Being customer centric is actually how you sustain the growth. Yeah. That's perfectly said. So two more questions before we finish. One is, where do you get actually educated about these things that you do? So maybe we can give people some resources, or you actually do educate yourself by doing, by being in the trenches.
Yeah. I mean, that's the two ways. You can read, and it's just everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. You just you want to learn about something, you kind of just Google it, and there's just a wealth of stuff out there. LinkedIn's always great if you've built the right sort of network on LinkedIn. There are good people on LinkedIn putting out good stuff. And yeah, doing is the biggest way of learning. As I said, I think I'm going back to what I said before. You'll see people say, there's like people have said SEO is dead, and they said email is dead, and they've been saying it for like a decade, and it isn't. And it's because they either doesn't work for them, doesn't work for their business, hasn't worked for them because they've implemented it incorrectly. I think very much the best way to educate yourself is to hopefully be in a position where you can test and learn. To say, have some budget to test LinkedIn, to test all the different platforms. Meta seems to be suddenly a huge platform for B2B businesses. 4 or 5 years ago, you probably weren't on it, but I'd say the vast majority of stuff I get targeted with these days are for a marketing tool of some sort. And that's probably been driven by someone having the goal to, everyone said, oh, you can't advertise businesses on Facebook. And someone's gone, actually, no. And they've got the right targeting, they've got the right value proposition, they've got the right messaging, and it's got to people at the right time. It's resonated and it's worked. And now everyone seems to be doing it. Even on TikTok, you're seeing these sort of marketing tools coming on now. But yeah, educating yourself. Personally, yeah, it's just keeping an eye out for anything interesting. So, I mean, I generally I look at things in two ways. I look at the tech side of things, so I try and stay on top of what's happening in the tech space, so across the hyperscalers like AWS, Google, Microsoft are doing. Then what some of the bigger sort of distributors are doing. Sign up to newsletters about the ISV market, MSPs, and then I look at marketing stuff, so Marketing Week, Brand, Republic, places like that, just to stay on top of general, broader marketing terms, which can be B2B and can be B2C. Because in some ways, I think a lot of stuff across those two things can be interchangeable.
I mean, some of those are great resources that you mentioned that people can get overall education about marketing.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a great source, and you mentioned, people should pay attention if each advice is for them or it's for a company that is different from what they are at the moment, different stage, maybe different industry, those kind of things. Because I think a lot of people on LinkedIn are talking about, okay, obviously we are on a podcast talking about B2B tech companies, those kind of things, but there are people who are not working in those companies, and they think those advice are applicable to them as well. For some are, some aren't. Also, like, there are a lot of podcasts these days when I see people really get into depth of the things and talk about it, and it moves really faster than written articles.
Yeah.
Right. From that perspective. Also, the last question: how can people reach out to you? Where they can find more information about you?
So if anyone's interested in discussing anything in more detail, can find on LinkedIn, or can email me at chris@paal15.com. So that's chris@paal15.com. And yeah, that's where they can find me. I've been sort of working a lot more on my LinkedIn. It's sort of something that fell a little bit to the wayside recent times, but yeah, I've been trying to sort of improve my profile on there, and hopefully people find what I post to be interesting and slightly informative.
Yeah, I think that's the struggle we all have, how to keep it up with things. I somehow have a habit of of posting and actually discussing with people, because there are not a lot of people here in the surroundings do the B2B tech marketing, right?
Yeah.
Especially the modern one. So my source are the people who I talk to over the LinkedIn or other things and inside the inbox and those kind of things. And it helped me also, reframe the messaging and go and talk a lot with people. But I always say to people, you don't need to post every day. You find your balance for your time. How do you go it? But just don't be only the warrior over there, right? You don't even need to post. You can engage with other people. That's on LinkedIn is the same as posting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way you can just liking stuff, commenting on stuff. It's it's again, I think it's finding the balance for what works within your network. I've been doing a lot of testing recently on my own profile to understand what drives the best engagement within my network, which can be completely different from someone else's network. So again, it's all about test, learn, and don't take any failure to heart.
Yeah, man, and those things change, especially on LinkedIn. What gives you the best results? It's a variable that changes. Like, you think video is not getting the right reach, then you go look at the views and see it has, views are actually the likes. Then it gives you create the trust, those kind of things. Then you have text posts, but then you say, is it AI written or no, or is it different? So many nuances and so many possibilities, but you just need to find what is the right thing that your target group is reacting to.
Yeah. Find what works for you. I mean, across anything, I think that's the one thing to take away from this or anything in marketing is find what works for you. And again, don't be afraid to fail. Don't take failure to heart and think it means that you did something wrong. It's just generally the nature of the market.
Agreed, man. Thanks for taking the time.
That's right. Thanks for having me on.
Always, I hope we'll do that again in the future, so you can come back and we can talk more about the development of the career and of the whole market, what's happening over there.
That sounds good.
Guys, make sure to follow Chris on LinkedIn. Make sure you check what's Paal15 doing, what they are all about, and follow the podcast if you're not following us yet and you're listening to this or watching us, and please share it with just one person. That's all I ask for. Share it with just one person that can find this useful and can solve a specific problem by listening to exactly this episode. See you in the next episodes. Bye bye.